That 2 p.m. crash, it's not random. Your brain isn't just getting tired, it's often reacting to something you're doing every single day. And most people never figure out what it is. The worst part is, the more you try to push through it, the more you reinforce the pattern. Because according to the internet, this is totally normal. Just drink more coffee, hydrate, maybe go for a walk, and somehow your biology will magically cooperate. Yeah. That's almost as helpful as restarting your phone when the battery is already dead. Here's the reality. If you feel exhausted at the same time every day, that's a pattern. And patterns usually mean something is off. Today, we're breaking down what's commonly contributing to that 2 p.m. crash, what the research says, and which solutions are quietly making it worse. One of the most common things people use to fix this problem is actually one of the reasons it keeps happening. I'm Marcus. I'm a research scientist with over 25 years experience, and this is Health Sense or Nonsense. I go through the studies so you don't have to, so we can focus on what actually works, not recycled advice or AI fluff. And if you want to check the research yourself, all the sources are linked in the description. Let's start with something most people don't realize. Your body is actually programmed to feel a dip in energy in the early afternoon. And this has nothing to do with motivation or discipline. It's controlled by your circadian rhythm, which is your internal clock that regulates sleep, hormones, and alertness throughout the day. Research on circadian biology shows a predictable dip in alertness in the early afternoon, often between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m., even in well-rested individuals. Think of it like your brain briefly switching into a lower power mode, but still functioning normally. The key detail here is that this dip is usually moderate, not something that completely shuts you down. If you're experiencing a full-on crash, where your focus disappears and your energy tanks, that's not just your circadian rhythm. That often means other factors are stacking on top of that natural dip and amplifying it. This is where most people go wrong because they treat the symptom instead of addressing the underlying contributors. Before we go further, quick but important note. This video is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. And if you're dealing with ongoing fatigue or health concerns, you should talk to a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes. Let's get into what's really driving this. The first major factor is blood sugar, and this is one of the biggest contributors to that afternoon crash. Most people eat lunch, feel fine for a short period of time, and then suddenly hit a wall. That shift isn't random. It's often a response to how your body processes what you just ate. When you eat a meal high in fast digesting carbohydrates, your blood sugar rises quickly. Your body releases insulin to bring it back down, but sometimes that response overshoots. That can lead to a drop in blood sugar that your brain interprets as a lack of energy, even if you technically consumed enough calories. Multiple studies on metabolism and post-meal fatigue show that high glycemic meals are associated with increased tiredness and reduced cognitive performance shortly after eating. In simple terms, fast carbs give you a quick boost, followed by a sharp crash. If your lunch is built around processed foods, you're more likely to create the exact energy dip you're trying to avoid. The second issue is caffeine timing, and this one is surprisingly counterintuitive. Most people wake up tired and immediately reach for that coffee, assuming it's helping them stay energized. In the short term, it does, but the long-term effect can be the opposite. Caffeine works by blocking a chemical called adenosine, which builds up in your brain and makes you feel sleepy. The problem is that caffeine doesn't remove adenosine. It just temporarily blocks its effects. When the caffeine wears off, all that built up sleep pressure can hit at once, which often shows up in the afternoon. Some recent work and expert recommendations suggest that poorly timed caffeine intake can increase perceived fatigue later in the day. There aren't large clinical trials proving that a specific delay like 60 to 90 minutes is optimal. But based on how caffeine interacts with your natural wake-up hormones, delaying it may help some people avoid a sharper crash later in the day. When you rely on caffeine to push through that dip, you're not fixing the problem. You're delaying it and potentially potentially making it more intense when it returns. The third factor is sleep quality, and this is where a lot of people underestimate the impact. It's not just about how long you sleep, it's about how well your body cycles through the different stages of sleep. If those stages are disrupted, your brain doesn't fully recover. Things like inconsistent sleep schedules, late night screen exposure, alcohol, and stress can all interfere with deep sleep and REM sleep. These are the stages responsible for physical and mental recovery, and without them, your baseline energy starts lower. By the time you reach the afternoon, you're already running on reduced reserves. Research consistently shows that when sleep quality is compromised, people experience decreased alertness and increased fatigue during the day, especially in the afternoon. So if your nights aren't optimized, your afternoons will reflect that whether you realize it or not. Now here's where most advice falls apart, because if it actually worked, you wouldn't still be crashing every afternoon. You'll hear people say things like, just eat better, drink more water, or get more sleep, which sounds helpful, but doesn't actually solve anything on its own. The key is understanding how these factors interact and not just addressing them individually. Quick favor, if this is helpful so far, hit like and subscribe because it helps the channel and lets me know you want more content that actually breaks down the science instead of repeating generic advice. Let's talk about what actually works in a practical way. The first thing you want to do is stabilize your lunch because that's one of the fastest ways to reduce that crash. That doesn't mean eating perfectly, but it does mean avoiding meals that spike your blood sugar rapidly. Prioritizing protein and fiber slows digestion and helps keep your energy more consistent. When your blood sugar stays more stable, your brain is less likely to get those sudden low fuel signals that trigger fatigue. That alone can significantly reduce how intense the afternoon dip feels. It's not about eating less. It's about creating a more stable energy curve throughout the day. The second strategy is adjusting your caffeine timing. Instead of drinking coffee immediately after waking up, waiting about 60 to 90 minutes allows your natural cortisol levels to rise first. This helps your body wake up on its own before introducing caffeine. When you delay caffeine, it works alongside your natural rhythms instead of overriding them. This reduces the likelihood of a sharp rebound crash later in the day. It's a small adjustment, but it can make your energy feel much more stable overall. The third factor is light exposure, which is one of the most overlooked pieces of the puzzle. Your brain uses light to regulate your circadian rhythm, and getting sunlight early in the day helps anchor your internal clock. That can make your natural afternoon dip feel less severe. Even a short walk outside in the morning can help regulate your energy levels. It sounds simple, but it has a measurable effect on how your body manages alertness. Consistency here matters more than intensity. The fourth piece is movement, because staying sedentary all day can contribute to a drop in energy. When you sit for long periods, blood flow decreases and your body shifts into a lower energy state. That can make the afternoon dip feel much worse. Short bursts of movement, like walking, stretching, or even standing up for a few minutes, can increase alertness and reduce fatigue. Research shows that brief activity throughout the day improves focus and energy without requiring anything extreme. You don't need a full workout. You just need to avoid being completely still for hours. Instead of just understanding the problem, here's a simple plan you can actually follow starting tomorrow. If you don't change behavior, nothing changes. And this only works if you apply it consistently. Step 1 is your morning. Don't reach for caffeine immediately, and wait about 60 to 90 minutes after waking up before your first coffee, while getting some light exposure as early as possible. This helps your body wake up naturally instead of relying entirely on the caffeine. Step 2 is your lunch. Build your meal around protein and fiber first, then add carbs instead of doing it the other way around. This slows digestion, stabilizes blood sugar, and helps prevent the spike and crash cycle that contributes to the 2 p.m. energy drop. Step 3 is your afternoon reset. Around 1 to 2 p.m. before the crash hits, take a short break and move your body, even if it's just a quick walk or stretch. This helps you stay ahead of the dip instead of reacting to it after it hits. Step 4 is caffeine control. If you're having a second cup of coffee, keep it earlier in the afternoon and avoid stacking caffeine late in the day. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for worse sleep, which feeds directly into the next day's crash. Step 5 is your cutoff point. Avoid long naps in the afternoon, especially anything over 20 minutes. Keep them early if you take them at all. Long naps feel good short term, but they can disrupt your sleep cycle and make the entire problem worse over time. If you follow these 5 steps consistently, many people notice that the 2 p.m. crash feels less intense within a few days to a couple of weeks, especially if it's mainly driven by lifestyle factors. It's not about perfection. It's about removing the biggest contributors that are causing the problem in the first place. One important thing to keep in mind is that not all fatigue is lifestyle related. If your afternoon crash is intense, new, or doesn't improve after fixing sleep, caffeine, and meals, it could be a sign of something else. Things like anemia, sleep apnea, thyroid issues, depression, or even medication side effects can all show up as persistent fatigue. In those cases, the solution isn't more coffee or pushing through it. The right next step is getting properly evaluated so you're not guessing at what your body's trying to tell you. Quick reminder again, this is not medical advice, and if your fatigue is persistent or severe, you should get it checked out by your personal doctor. All the studies and sources used here are linked in the description below if you want to go deeper into the research. And yeah, AI will tell you to drink more water and meditate, which isn't wrong, but it's also not enough. If you actually want results, you need a system you can follow, not just generic advice. I'm Marcus. This is Health Sense or Nonsense. As always, Wellness Watchdog out.